to the, I meant to count, I think this is episode 8 of I2E's Inspire online virtual conference. And hope some of you were able to catch some earlier sessions, particularly this morning's session on accessibility was excellent. Thank you, Lauren, for that one. So I am going to be bouncing around between different kind of settings, different sharing settings here. Right now, I am sharing my whole screen with you, and you're seeing just kind of this PowerPoint. I'm going to get back into Teams itself because I want you all to be able to see how to get in and out. You're going to need to minimize the screen yourself pretty soon. By screen, I mean this meeting screen. So you're going to be able to click outside here. So there's a difference between being on a team and being in a Teams call. So you are in a Teams call that is inside of a team. Some of you may have had the experience of just being in a Teams call, which is essentially Skype for Business features inside of Teams, very similar to Zoom, things like that. But this is actually a team that you're on. And so besides having the screen here for our actual video meeting, you have what we call the Me area in Teams over here. So if you click anywhere else out here, like on Teams, and you may or may not have the same exact icons as me, your meeting gets kind of minimized down here. But you can always click back to get back into the actual video portion. But there's going to be times where we're going to need you to kind of minimize this and get to other features in here. Like this is the Posts tab. We can come back here after the meeting. All of the links that will be posted during the meeting, we're not going to need you to go back into the meeting and back to the chat to get to those. Jen's going to be posting links in the chat during the meeting, but afterwards, like I can go to all of the previous meetings from the week here and get to the conversation threads there. And here we are in number 8, giving real-time feedback in OneNote and Forms. So you're going to need to get in and out, and you can click back in to see what I'm showing you on my screen. Right, and so now I'm going to bring the PowerPoint back up, and we're going to actually get started. We're actually only going to go through the first few slides here. There's a whole set of slides that we will be posting for you to access afterwards, but once we get to about, I think, 7 or 8, we're going to stop using them within our meeting here. All right, so here we go. Welcome to session 8 of Inspire. All right, this one is all about feedback. And so we actually can use a red pen for feedback. That's one of the options in OneNote well, there's literally hundreds of options if you're going to count colors. So who am I? I'm Matthew Nickerson. I work full-time for Anne Arundel County Public Schools, which is in Maryland. I worked over 2 decades in special education. And if any of you know a whole lot about special education, the number of things you're required to do are just impossible. But you can actually approach the possible by harnessing technology. So that's kind of my story. Is I began learning more and more about technology in order to try and accomplish all the things that you need to do in special education. And eventually took enough courses that I knew everybody in our instructional technology office. So by the time they had an opening, we knew each other pretty well. So I now do that full-time, training full-time in our district, 12 months. So naturally, our office, we're working 60 to 70 hours a week for the last month or so. Suddenly, everybody's found out how important we are. All right, a little bit about me personally. I have 8 children. I can prove that here. So this picture is a little bit old. This one here, she's heading into high school in the fall. So you can see this is, I guess, about 5 years ago. Okay. And I am an author. Okay, this is my blog. It's the other IT, not information technology, but instructional technology. So it's theother-it.com. And back in October, I published what at the time was the only book in existence on using Microsoft tools in the classroom. Now a couple other people have joined me with their books, including the Microsoft Infused Classroom by Holly Clark, and I2E's own Kathy Krasnowski and Becky Keene are coming out with one in June. So I'm in good company there. And I say I'm a part-time lumberjack. What I mean by that is I'm sitting in front of a computer desk 12, 13 hours a day. And what I've been able to do some stress relief is go out with a chainsaw and an axe and cut up this big tree. So I don't know if you can see where my curtain, you probably can't, but right where the stump is, that part that's uncut is about 4 feet thick. So I'm kind of at a dead end here, not knowing how to proceed from there. So the way I'm clicking back and forth, by the way, is this is a little feature inside of PowerPoint called Zoom. So you can actually zoom to another slide, and if you set it up right, then you can zoom back as well. Normally it puts a thumbnail of that. Ooh, we're getting dizzy. Normally it puts a thumbnail of that image here, but you can also replace that image with another image. So I just did a screenshot. All right, so that is a little bit about me. I am on Twitter at dad_8 for obvious reasons. So that's dadx8 spelled out. You can email me at matthew.nickerson@usmie.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn here. Again, you'll be getting all of these slides later in case you actually want to do any of those things. All right, but you're not here for me. What are you here for? Feedback. We want to give feedback that is timely, that is meaningful, and differentiated. It is probably true that we each have our own favorite way of doing feedback, and maybe it was just the way that we preferred to receive feedback when we were students. Maybe it's just the only thing we know. Maybe we're used to just writing things on paper and we're doing whatever the closest digital version of that is. But it's true that besides the fact that we have a preferred way, our students have preferred ways. And sometimes one way of giving feedback makes sense for one type of assignment, but a different type of feedback makes more sense for a different type of assignment. And it's also true that if you consider accessibility, that the type of feedback that you think is best for one assignment might not be what's best for every student in your class. So it is quite possible that you will give multiple forms of feedback for the same assessment for different students. Here at I2E, we believe that an excellent education is a basic right, socioeconomic and workforce imperative, and that is never been more true than what we're experiencing right now. We have all been faced with, whether we're comfortable with technology or not, the necessity of technology. So we already believe that people could do remarkable things with technology, but now it's become even more of a necessity. And so when we apply technology in new ways, it can shift behavior and inspire improved learning outcomes. All right, so here's the first time that you're gonna get to kind of click outside of here and go back into, well, actually, I'm sorry, that's not true. You can do it from right where you are. If you are not seeing this toolbar floating at the bottom of your screen, if you just move your mouse, it will reappear. And you're gonna click on the one that looks like sort of a comic character speaking, and that will open the chat in the right side column. And in that column, I would like you to answer this question. Where is the first place you want to go when we're all cleared to travel again? Whenever that is. All right, so just click here. July. Let's hope that we're ready by July. Sarah took mine, Hawaii, Kauai in particular. And if it's not picky, just any beach. TJ Maxx. Just out to dinner. Yep. Welcome back, Michelle. You were in this morning's session, weren't you? I think I remember you asking some good questions. Louisville. Louisville was the last place I was before all of this hit. I was actually at KISTI, and they closed the conference a day early. we were already exposed to each other, but that was the point in time when everybody was finding out their school districts were closing and we had to get home and get ready for all this. Ooh, all right, so you seem to have all gotten the hang of this in the chat. So the chat you can sort of open and close. You can also click to see who's here. It takes up that same column. All right, so open and close chat as needed. All right, I'm briefly going to come back in here and almost done with our slides. Mentioned this a little bit earlier, but so the chat is where we're currently going to have our conversation. It's where we are currently going to have our links. But after today's session, actually right when we wrap up, we'll switch over to using the posts. And to see the posts, then you do have to sort of minimize what you're seeing right now. All right, so let's get into forms. And this will be the first thing that we're going to post for you in the chat. And I'm going to open up a browser where I have, oh, we're done with Amazon. I have a form.
Hey, Nick, there's a few people that are saying they can't see your screen. Would you mind resharing?
Sure. How's that? We good?
Yep, you're great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So this is an actual quiz that is part of an online course that I have, and it's broken into sections. And by sections, that means you only see so many questions at a time. And this one is about using, well, like it says, using assignments within teams. And we're not going to go through the whole thing. There's 25 questions here. But Jen, were you able to post the link in there so they can go through this themselves? I'm going to actually choose the wrong answer here. You can reuse a rubric in Teams that you've used in another team. It is true, you can. But if I choose false, oh, you know what? I just realized I need to go all the way through this to see the feedback. I should have picked a shorter one. Live and learn. All right, so I'm going to run through here and just going to do true, false, true, false, true, false. And pick some random answers. When I finish taking this, then I will be able to see the feedback that I, as the creator, built in. Like I said, I think there's 25 questions here, but they're all multiple choice or true, false. So there we go. I click submit, and I can now click to view my results. All right, so you can see that at least for all the ones that I get wrong, there is some feedback. So as I create the form, and we'll show you how to do that in a moment, but as you create the form, you can actually put in for every single answer choice what you want the recipient to see. You can do that for true ones as well, or ones that they get correct as well. I think for this particular one, I only put in for if you made a mistake. This one says, can you add an attachment for OneDrive or Google Drive to an assignment in Teams? Yes. Oh, this is my dry sense of humor here. Yes, but don't try this with the other brand. They're not so cooperative. Oops. You can add a link to a video lecture or a lesson you've delivered live or recorded Teams to an assignment in Teams. Yeah, I think this whole section was all true. These are all things that you can do with assignments in Teams. So all of my false answers have a comment. And mine are simply that. They're simply comments. You could actually use this as an explanation of why that answer is correct or not. There's my dry sense of humor again. Yes, you can collaborate. It's called the collaboration space. right, so that's one way to create feedback within forms, is to attach the feedback to each of your answer choices. You can customize that feedback based on the answer choices. For me, as a special ed teacher, I've kind of taught all subjects, but for me, the easiest way to apply this is math. A lot of times, if somebody chooses a certain incorrect answer, as a math teacher, you can kind of analyze that and say, oh, they added here instead of dividing here, or they got their orders of operations different. So in my mind, it's really easy to explain how you got to the wrong answer in a math problem. And so there you can say order of operations, or you added instead of subtracted, or if you're subtracting a negative, then that's like adding, right? All right, and then for my next one, this one is providing feedback, not so much in the answer choices like we have here, but actually providing choices through, or providing feedback through branching. And what we mean by branching is, I'm gonna pull another form in, and this one you'll be able to see behind the scenes for how we create that feedback. So here is a form that you don't have access to. So this one is just one to watch me. But again, here I have a section, and the way I use sections is this one question just has to do with these two pictures. And then we move on to section 2, and at this point it's about this reading passage. So all the questions in section 2 have to do with this passage. And so when you as the quiz taker get to this section, all you can see are the questions that have to do with the passage. So this all shows up on your screen at one time. Same thing with the reading passage for section 3. And here's where I kind of differentiated the responses based on your answers. This is what branching means. So based on what answer you give, something different happens. Typically what happens is if you give this answer, you go to question 5, choose this answer, you go to question 7, that sort of thing. I did this one a little bit differently for reteaching. And click on the 3 dots. Whoops, got to sign back in. If you click on the ellipses at the bottom of each question, it gives you the ability to turn on branching or add branching. So you can see what I have here is not a message like we did in the former forms. So I can click here to give the feedback. That's what we did before. But for branching, what I have is send you to a different section. So we're looking at words that describe the tone, and it was foreboding. If you chose peaceful, it sends you to the peaceful section. Well, peaceful section's down here. If you choose peaceful, after you finish that one, it sends you back up where you were. So it's just a temporary detour, the way I have it set up. You choose peaceful, I give you a little bit of review about what peaceful means, you come right back here. You choose fearful, take you to a different section that describes what fearful is, and then you come right back up here. So if I close that, show you what those sections actually have. I've got the word peaceful. I just went to dictionary.com, grabbed definition, and put in a picture that I found for me was peaceful. Okay, so my feedback in this case, I lost my fearful picture. My feedback in this case is taking them to a place to review the meaning of that word. And again, the way you do that, any question, right at the end, there's the ellipses, click there to add branching. If you wanted to do what I did on the first form and just give feedback, when you click in to edit any question, you hover over an answer choice, you can see here's where you can choose correct answers, here's where you can give the feedback message to display to anybody who chooses that answer. There's also other settings we're not going to go into in forms about when students see that feedback, when they see their scores, things like that. You can make questions required or not required, make the points here, So if you haven't played around with forms before, it is not only a very versatile tool in and of itself, but it also has Immersive Reader built in. So if you haven't seen Immersive Reader, it's an entire suite of reading accessibility tools. So wherever you see this icon, not going to walk you through this, but other than to show you that it is an entire suite. It is a tab here that has to do with visual things. So not everybody who has reading difficulty has a decoding issue. So this addresses that. Comprehension pieces here, line focus, picture dictionary. So again, as I said, an entire suite of reading accessibility tools built right into forms. But the next thing I want to do with forms is show you how to take it from here, where it's simply a place for students to give answers. And multiple choice is one option. If you need to get more information from students, you can certainly ask an open-ended question. But if you take this and you just take the same link that you would use for students to access it, so I can paste this into Teams, can paste this into anywhere that I give students access to websites. But if I copy that, take it into a OneNote notebook, you can see that it actually embeds the form here. And the advantage here is the student can do everything right here in Forms that they could do on the Forms website, because this is actually the website embedded right here. You can see you can have the Immersive Reader built in. They can still answer the questions here, but I also have this space out here where they can write out their thoughts. It's essentially having scrap paper built in. And if they're not going to use that, then I can still take advantage as an instructor of the automatic grading, but I can also give feedback here. So everything that we do today in OneNote is going to be just in a regular OneNote notebook. But if you're actually going to use these with students, then it makes sense that you'd be using OneNote Class Notebook. One of the things that you can do with Class Notebook is once you embed your form here, I can now distribute a copy of this page to every student. So they're each going to take the quiz here on their own page. The results still go to my spreadsheets, my Excel spreadsheet that I can make from forms, but I can also give feedback right here. So I can take forms, put it in OneNote, and take advantage of all the other things that we're about to show you about feedback in forms. All right, so I am going to pause here and let you all spend some time in forms. Okay, just a few minutes if you haven't played around in there before. And we are, let's see, Jen, I have a link to go to actually this OneNote page, and I just decided to use it in a different way than I had planned. So if you could post the link to OneNote, that'll actually get them to this page, or this section.
Nick, that was not in the links that you sent me.
Okay. Let
me go in the conference notebook. Go ahead and go on, and I'll see if I can grab it.
Okay, I think, was I smart enough to put it here? No, I wasn't. No, okay. But what I was going to use that for now was once we get you to this page that you could then click right here and go to Forms. So the quickest way, if you are not already familiar with Forms, the quickest way to get there from scratch is to go to office.com. And Forms is right here. Difference between a form and a quiz is forms are surveys or polls with no answer key, and a quiz, of course, is graded and has an answer key. When you add new. You can see even before I type in a question, even before I type in answer choices, right here I have that ability to enter my feedback. And right here I have, well, there's nowhere to branch to, but hiding behind here is add branching. So it is 5:26 on my clock, so 5:30 we will jump into OneNote, but you can take just a few minutes to play around with forms. In the meantime, I'm going to jump over to the chats and see what's happening there. Okay, so the question, if you're embedding forms into a class notebook, should the form be set to capture student logins? There's a couple different ways to go about that. When you share forms, and forms was the first thing in my district that we were actually able to share outside of our district. Everything else in our district from OneDrive, you can't share outside of OneDrive. So with forms, you actually can, which is how you're able to take this quiz today. So you can have it set up so that it requires students to be logged in. The other option would be to make the first question student's last name, second question the student's first name, and I recommend, if you're going to do that, to separate the first and last name, because they would then be separate answers in the spreadsheet, and that way you can sort them by last name. So the difference here in terms of identity is if anyone with a link can respond, well, then Forms doesn't need to know who you are. If I turn on only people in my organization can respond, well, how are you going to verify that you're in my organization? Well, you have to log in. So you have to be logged into Office 365 in order for you to take the assessment if I turn this on. And then when I look at the responses, well, of course, I picked one that doesn't have responses. Then when I look at the responses, I can actually see who you are. I think everything I have recently in here I'm not going to show who they are because they're all set up for outside my domain. Yeah, see, this is one that was shared with anyone, but it does have an email column here nonetheless. So if this was within my district, then right here in the spreadsheet, I would see who they are, but also as I look through the responses in Forms, I'd be able to see who they are. Instead of respondent 0, it would have the student's name. Good question. Can you add drop-down questions? Yeah, drop-down is not a different type of question in Forms. You can actually turn a multiple choice question into a drop-down question. That's a toggle. Anytime you do a multiple choice question, you'll have a toggle button, just like is this a required question or not? So you can turn that into drop-down. Yeah, those work much better on mobile devices. Okay, yeah, so this is a question about being logged in. Teams is beautiful in that it incorporates everything of Office 365. So generally when you're logged into one, then you're logged into the others, particularly if you're accessing the online version. Forms is only online. So if you're already logged into Forms in that class notebook. Oh, and the other thing about class notebook is if you are distributing these pages to each student in class notebook, each student can only get to their section. They can't get to the other students' sections. So if you're not familiar with class notebook, there is a collaborative space that everybody can edit in. There's a read-only area that the teacher can put documents in that are directions, syllabus, things that no one else but the teacher can edit. And then each student gets their own section. The teacher can see everybody's section. Students can each only see their section. Whatever is in their section is editable. So as a teacher, I would add the form to a page in OneNote. Then I would distribute that. You can even have a teacher only section in OneNote as well. I've had classes where my entire curriculum is in the teacher only section, and then as things are needed, I distribute them. So I can add a page that has this form and then give a copy to each student. And yeah, if they're not logged in, they don't get to that page because it's their section. All right, so it is 5:31. I said we'd get into OneNote at 5:30. And just realized that I can send you that link from right here. So I have 2 pages. Whoops. Yeah, 2 sections here. No, I don't. I'm about to have 2 sections here. So I have a section here that I'm going to go through modeling different things for feedback. I would like you to be able to practice it. So I'm going to add a new section here called practice. And so the way this is going to work is you'll go to the practice section. Oh, there it is. I do have one. Got a little bit of lag here in my house. So you can go to either one of these. So I have participant practice, and the directions are add a page and type your name at the top. So this is the content of the page. This is the title of the page. So what you're going to do is you're going to click add page, and then you're going to type your name in so nobody else will mess with your page. Then if you want some actual content to mark up, you can come back to this page, the one that says add a page and type your name at the top. Click here. You can copy the whole thing to your page. Or you can just sort of click and drag and grab some. Yeah, what you have on your page doesn't really matter, just as long as you have some text on there to sort of mark up. So I'm going to copy the link to this section, and I'm going to bring it into our chat. And you want to click on web view. Participant practice will actually try and open this in, I wonder if I can redo that. We'll actually try and open this on a desktop version. All right, I'm going to leave that be. You need to click on the part that says web view. These are actually 2 separate links. Now, I do actually have this. I'm going to go back into the team and show you that I did actually post it up here, but because of the incredible increase in demand that Teams and all the other brands, won't mention any of their names, but because of the increased demand of usage here, normally when you post a Word document here, when you post a PowerPoint here, when you post a OneNote notebook here, it is editable right here inside of Teams. But there were major syncing issues and just lag going on. So they made the at least temporary change that now you have to open it outside of Teams. So you can view things inside of Teams, you can view documents and OneNote notebooks and things like that. But now you actually have to open them outside of Teams in order to edit them. We believe that's a temporary thing. And as they ramp up the capability to handle the demand, that this should be a feature that returns. So this opens it in the cloud in OneNote online. You can see the cloud right there. This opens it in the app, and then you'll have the choice. You may have the OneNote Windows 10 app on your device. You may also have the OneNote 2016 program on your device. We're actually going to touch on both of those in a little bit because there's a couple features that are only available there. But the first, I think, 4 things we're going to do all work just fine in the online version. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and open it there. All right, so first up, I'm going to go down here to where it says type feedback. So it's kind of boring. It's just typing. But I want you to see that I embedded a Word document. Here's a link to the original Word document. If I want to edit it, I can click here to open it in Word and edit it. And this is a printout of that document. So if I click once, I'm actually selecting the printout. I can drag it around. I can delete it. If this is my student's work and I want to comment on it, if I want to type, then I've got 2 choices. I can double click quickly. Oh, it's not showing off for me. All right, let me just do it the other way. I'm going to click outside of the space. That's not working for me either. Oh, edit notebook. Missed an important step there. All right, edit notebook. So now I can double click on the page. There we go. I can double click even on top of the text and type a comment. And then I can move that where I need it. All right, this is actually a very old document. This is about 5 years old. If I was running this same session today, most of these tools I will have replaced with something else. Edpuzzle's still nice. But you can double click to actually create a box right on top of the text and then move it to where it is relevant. Or you can just click once outside of the documents and type your comments. So I think I saw something about Nearpod on there. I'm just going to type the word Nearpod and drag it down there. Okay, this is valuable for me because my handwriting is atrocious. Okay, so if I actually just want to put written comments on a page, typing is really the way to go if my students are going to be able to access it. And you'll see that in a few moments when we do some written feedback with handwriting. But you can quite simply open a box, put it anywhere. And that's because OneNote is an open canvas. It's very much like PowerPoint in that you can put text anywhere, except that with PowerPoint you have to create a text box and then put it anywhere, and then you can move it anywhere. But not like in Word, where if I want to put something over here, then I need to put my cursor here and then space, or tab. And if I run out of space at the end of the line, it's just going to go to the next line anyway. So you have an open canvas. You can put your comments for your students absolutely anywhere on the page. All right, so that's the first step, is typing. Dictation, very similar. You're still going to end up with typed text on the page, but with dictation, one factor is speed. Most of us do speak faster than we type. Jen's had to tell me a few times to slow down during this session. I certainly talk way faster than I type. And it actually ends up, in spite of the not quite perfect transcript that dictation often does, it still turns out better than me typing. So under the Home tab, and this is pretty consistent throughout all of the Office products, under the Home tab, all the way to the right, you have the Dictate button. Click here. You can see a number of different languages that you can dictate into. My understanding of the difference between the ones at the top and the preview languages is simply that these are more accurate right now. But like typing, it will do it wherever you put the cursor. So again, open canvas, put your cursor anywhere you want, click on dictate, and just give it permission and start speaking. And it should start typing out what I'm saying, period. It does use punctuation. If I actually want the word period to appear there, I think I just did it correctly. I said word before I said period. You can see a difference there. Comma. I don't know what I'm going to say next. I just wanted to put a comma, period. I think it's fun to watch dictation in that sometimes it doesn't catch exactly what you said and it puts something wrong. And then as you keep talking, it's kind of fun to see it go back and say, oh, that's what you said, or oh, that's what you meant. And it actually fixes that. When you're done, just click on dictation microphone to stop. There is also a certain period of time, I'm not sure exactly how long, but if you go a certain period of time without talking, it'll turn itself off. And once again, I can now click and drag this to wherever I need. So our session is on teachers giving feedback, but keep in mind everything that we show you here, how students would be able to use these as well. So some students are just fine typing, others as an accessibility feature, they have the ability to dictate. And as I said, this is in pretty much all of the Office tools. This is, my district uses Microsoft and Google. I was at a session in at FETC in January where someone was showing you can do this in Google Slides. Well, not on the slide itself, it's actually in the notes. So you'd have to dictate into the notes, then drag it onto the slide. Nope, not true with PowerPoint. PowerPoint, put the cursor anywhere you want and dictate. So this is in Word Online, it's in the Word desktop version. It's in PowerPoint Online, PowerPoint desktop version. It's in OneNote, all the versions of OneNote. So dictation, our second way. All right, and I'm going to go to digital inking. Now, I happen to be using my Surface Pro right now. I'm going to pretend I'm not for a little bit so you can see how this is possible if you don't have a touchscreen device, if you don't have a stylus. So here I am, my writing sample. Now this one's a little bit different. This one, instead of putting a document here, I actually copied and pasted text here so I can actually edit the text. Inking is pretty consistently also in the same place in Microsoft Tools, and that is under the Draw tab. So click under Draw. For the online version, I have pencils and highlighters. Difference between pencils and highlighters is simply that a pencil you can't see through, and a highlighter you can see through. You have the same color choices, I believe. I'm colorblind, but you have the same number of color choices, so I believe they're all the same. And with a pencil, you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different thicknesses. With a highlighter, lo and behold, you have 9 different thicknesses. So again, only difference is whether you can see through these or not. Otherwise, same number of color choices, same number of thickness choices. So you can simply highlight a section, or you can actually take your pen and say, oh, so here's where not using the stylus slows me down. I want to say there's a good point, or that's a good point. If this is the speed I'm going for, I'm probably going to use dictation, personally. But if I grab my stylus, handwriting is actually better with my mouse than with the stylus, but that's probably not true for all of us. So this is also a little bit like I grew up as a teacher using Smart Notebook. I'm now using my finger. I actually wanted to slide over rather than writing. So taking my mouse, if I come back over here, I have to deselect the ink. That was my Smart Notebook reference here, is with Smart Notebook, when you pick up a pen, if you want to go back to not using the pen, you have to deselect it and choose something else. Well, that's how this works as well. Once I pick up the pen or the highlighter, in order to stop writing with my finger or the stylus, I need to say, hey, go back to the select mode. So now I can drag this over a little bit, choose my pencil again, and I can write a comment. Oh, wow. Handwriting's getting worse. And deselect. Now, keep in mind that these things can be used in conjunction as well. So I can take my highlighter and highlight a certain passage, grab my pen, point to that passage, come back to home, select first, come back to home, put my cursor here. Oh, see, I'm inside the box still. Come out here. The big box. There we go. Put my cursor in here. Now I can make a comment to the students about the passage I just highlighted and use these different feedback tools in conjunction with one another, period. Okay, I'm not sure it quite qualifies as app smashing, but the principle of app smashing is that multiple digital tools together, often the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts, excuse me. Mixing up my metaphors. So the ability to use these in conjunction with each other makes each of them more valuable than any of them are individually. So in preparation for this session, I recently wrote a few blog posts on some of these tools. And when I posted one of them, I immediately got some feedback from people saying, you left out stickers. So I had to go back and revise it to add stickers. So there's a lot of seriousness in our work, but there can be a lot of fun as well. So this one is actually under the Insert tab. And there's our stickers. Pretty big library. It doesn't necessarily look like it at first. Some of these first categories only have 6 items in them. But if you scroll down a little bit, some of them have a whole lot more. And there's a lot of categories. And some of these stickers are even editable. So if you look for one that has a pencil icon next to it, if you choose that, you can go in here and change that to great job. Again, wherever my cursor was at the time that I went to insert the sticker, that's where it will appear. But like all other objects, you can click and drag as well. So we're going to pause here. You have your participant practice page that you can still add if you haven't. And you can try out dictation, digital inking, stickers, and typing. So I have 5:48. We're actually going to give you, say, 10 minutes for this one. So at 5:58, we will shift gears a little bit. And everything we've done so far has been online, but in 10 minutes, we're going to click the open this in the app and show you recording audio and recording video. Oh, can you change your handwriting to text automatically? Yes, there is under the Draw tab, there is an ink to text. There's also an ink to math feature in there. Oh, except I'm in the wrong version. So I should be consistent. We were in the online version, so. Oh, that's right. We are in the online version that does not have it. Sorry. So we're going to open it in the app in a moment. So we'll show you that feature in the app. Got so excited, I forgot we weren't in the right one. I don't know if there's any questions that Jen hasn't already answered. I recognize that from this morning. Mhm. There's lots of other fun features within OneNote. I originally thought we would maybe have some time to cover some of the things you can do in math there, and then realized, well, they're not specifically related to feedback. So we might have time to squeeze that in at the end. But OneNote, as far as I know, was the first place that Immersive Reader existed. It was actually what drew me to Microsoft as a former special educator. I feel like, well, I used to say that OneNote was where Microsoft does all of their cool innovation. All the new stuff appears there first, and then if it works well, they move it to other places. But I think PowerPoint can give OneNote a run for its money there. If you're not familiar with OneNote, you can insert anything here. It started out as a digital binder. When I first started using OneNote, I would say about it that you are you don't create in OneNote. It's a storage place. But I think it's added so many features that I do a lot of creating in OneNote as well. So I said we'd take 10 minutes for this, but only about half of you created a page, and I know that with my network, I might not have synced everything yet, but not seeing a whole lot of experimentation and practice going on, so thinking we may go ahead and do the next two pieces now. All right, we made it through our 10 minutes. Come back together now. One thing I just realized I didn't mention when we talked about the very basic typing is that you have all of the same options that you're familiar with from Microsoft Word. You have all of the fonts that are available in Word. You have text size, bold, italics, underlining, colors. You can even use the format painter. So if this is a format that you want to use elsewhere, you can very easily. So even just typing feedback can be done in a variety of ways. All right, so record audio. Recording audio is something that you cannot do in the online version. You can see that it's grayed out here. There's a place for it. Oh, I'm wrong. I was just in the title. All right, so that was kind of planned. When you're in the title area, certain things are grayed out. And so this is a common thing that I run into when I'm doing sessions in a, say, computer lab setting. People say, I don't have that option. And then I come over and the first thing I look for is, where is your cursor? If it's up in the title, then things that they should have access to, they don't, because you're not going to put audio text in your title. So I can come out here in my body and place my cursor down, and click on audio, and boom, as soon as I click on it, wait, there was no record. Like, oh, clicking on audio turns on the recorder. It is now recording. I can tell that it's spinning right here. I've got a stop rather than a record here. So it's recording audio here. So when it comes to giving students feedback, again, we can use this in combination with other things. I can record audio and I can just sort of draw to say, here's what I'm talking about when I said this. And I could stop my audio and come down here and start my audio again. Oh, whoops. Let me turn that off. I want to be right there. Turn on my audio. Cooperate audio. And now I have another audio recording here. Okay, so as a teacher giving feedback, if I want to record something for my students in multiple places, that probably is going to be my workflow. I'm going to stop. I'm going to put another clearly marked audio recording on here. I'm kind of making a big deal out of this because if I'm a student taking notes, I'm going to do audio a little bit differently. So why would you record audio rather than written text? Well, when my wife and I have conversations with some of our 8 children, we have a little bit difference of opinion in terms of quality of communication. So we grew up with face-to-face is the best. Next best thing is a phone call. Next best thing is writing a letter, right? Now there's a whole lot more options in between. And when we say next best, we mean, no, not that people don't love getting letters, but in terms of the quality of the communication, how much you're left inferring or guessing. You know, face-to-face is the clearest method of communication. And so that's why we're trying to do things like video conferencing during these times when we're apart. But you know, now we've got texts and emails and all kinds of other sort of intermediary things. Being able to speak rather than typing, you have all of the meaning that is conveyed by your tone. There can be a big difference, particularly if you have to give negative feedback of any form, to be able to say that in a kind tone rather than in just black and white letters. As we just saw, they don't have to be black and white, but you know, what you can convey in terms of softening the blow in audio can make a big difference. And then there's the fact that different students will receive things in different ways. For students who need Immersive Reader to read things aloud for them, well, why not just put it in audio in the first place and let them just click and hear what you have to say? Okay, and it's that easy. You just come back here and click play. Right? Another consideration, though, and this is true for dictation or recording audio, is you as the person doing this. If you have 100 essays to grade, then anything that saves you a little bit of time times 100 is huge. So can you say it faster than you can type it? Can you say it faster than you can write it? Well, consider using dictation or recording audio just for that, because I think we can agree that things that help the teacher be more efficient are in the long run going to be good for the students as well. Because if I can get more feedback down quicker, then I'm more likely to give more feedback. I'm more likely to give more quality feedback. So I mentioned this is a little bit different if I'm a student taking notes. So interesting thing, if I turn on record audio and I take some notes, whoops, let me grab a pen. I take some notes here, then I scroll down on my page and I take some different notes here and I scroll down on my page or over. Make my page a little bigger, type some notes here. When I stop my audio, not only is there, oh my goodness, that was nonsense. Not only is there the initial place where I place that recording, but if I go to listen to that, see that little speaker icon? Once I click play, that speaker icon is going to move to each of the locations that I scribbled something. So that speaker icon will come down, it'll highlight this. So when I click playback, it'll highlight what I was doing while I was taking notes when really this is ideal for if there's a lecture or an audio lesson going on. So it will record the audio of my teacher or professor. And as I listen back, my typing, my drawing, my sketching will all be in context. It lets me know what I was doing at the time that was being spoken. All right, so this is audio. And for our last one, actually going to, let me slow down and talk you through that. Hold I am going to click on Open in App. Now, there are 2 desktop versions of OneNote. You may or may not have each of them. Windows 10 has the app, and I have switched over to almost always using the app. A lot of the newer tools are only in the app, but it's also true that there's some older tools that have not made their way to the app yet. And one of those is video recording. So when I choose Open in App, I do like to uncheck this. I don't want to tie myself into the only time I ever open this, it's always going to open in whichever one I pick right now. Most of the time I do use Windows 10 app, but right now I want to use 2016. So I'm going to uncheck always use this app. I'm going to open this in 2016. So you may or may not be able to follow along on this part, depending whether or not you have OneNote 2016. You can see all of the changes that I made just synced. And here's record video. If I go up to insert, right next to record audio is record video. It has the exact same controls. It works the same way. As soon as I click record video, it's going to start recording video. And here it is. And it is using the webcam. This is not a screen recorder. I'll use PowerPoint if I want a screen recorder. This is recording me. Apparently it's using the rear facing camera, so it's taking a picture of the shadows rather than me. But I can click on recording and pause or stop. And there's my video. So I can click here to play it back. So otherwise, it works the same as record audio, except that the students can see you. There's also in the 2016 version settings here. So you can choose which camera. So apparently mine was the rear facing camera. So you can do settings for your audio and video here. But the other really cool thing here that's in the 2016 version is enable searching audio and video recordings. It does warn you that if you turn this on, it will slow down your searching. But what happens here is now when I go to search for content, it will actually search essentially a transcript of what I just said. So I can search through my audio and video recordings for words that I said there and find the pages that those are on. Pretty neat feature. So that's the kind of thing that isn't anywhere else except 2016. And that's why when Microsoft originally announced that they were switching over completely to the app, that a lot of loyalists said, no, we still want 2016, because there's still a few features that are only there. So that is all of the different types of feedback. So you've seen that you can type, you can dictate, we've got inking, stickers, and 2 ways to record, audio and video. Other things that you can do with digital inking, besides giving feedback, again, this would be ways you can use this with students, is you could put poetry in here and ask them, oh, apparently I don't have the poem in there. Put poetry in here and have them, with different colors highlighter, mark up rhyme schemes. 1 color for each different type of sound. I want to say sound effects. That's not the right word. I haven't taught poetry in enough years. Sound devices, that's the word. You can have them write out answers step by step. Not just give the answer, but they can actually do their math right here on the page with digital inking. Can put images on here, maps, diagrams, and have them label. You can put text on here and have them mark up the text. So anything that they can do on pencil and paper, they can do digitally with digital inking. We've had an issue in our district where we're using a different product that doesn't work well with PDFs. If you put the PDFs in OneNote, it's no problem. Kids can write all over it and turn it right back in. In fact, with Class Notebook, you're not essentially even turning something in. When you share a page with them, you just go to that page. They don't have to add their name to it. They don't have to turn it back in. It's in the notebook in a section that they have access to and you have access to. If you're using assignments in Teams, yeah, then there is an actual turning in process. But you can also share pages from OneNote class notebooks in an assignment in Teams. So if that's the kind of feature that you're looking for, you have the advantage of the ease of use of doing assignments in Teams, but the fact that it's already distributed and there's nothing to collect by sharing a class notebook page. All right, so let's head back to the PowerPoint for a little bit. Make sure we covered everything. So we did forms. We put our OneNote, our forms in OneNote. I didn't do the math. That wasn't specifically about feedback. So we did typing, dictating, inking, stickers, recording audio and video. All right, we've got through our checklist here. So the last two things here are, oops, I didn't put my handle in there. If you could, if you're a Twitter user, get on there and post something at I2E-edu and at me, dadx8, and let us know what you got out of this session that will be useful for your students. And if you're not using Twitter, I put off using Twitter for as long as I could, and then realized what a fool I was. Twitter, if nothing else, it's an incredible way to do professional development on your own time. You just look for Twitter chats about products you use or about things that you want to accomplish with your students. And again, it's PD on your own time, and you get to choose your topics. All right, and last piece is for those of you who have been in the other 7 sessions, you know that education.microsoft.com is a rich resource for learning all kinds of things about Microsoft tools. You can explore courses here and different learning paths, but it's also a place that utilizes digital badging. So there's badges and points for participating in trainings. So this is certainly has been a training on Microsoft tools. So we have a code for you here, which will be in the chat as well as in the posts in coming days. So once you go there, if you click on your icon, once you log in, right under your icon, second item down is redeem achievement code, and you put this in here. Yes, you do need the T and the dash. You will get credit for your 90 minutes spent here. So I'm going to head back to chat and see. Jen's been answering your questions, but I'm just going to see if there's anything that she answered for an individual that maybe we need to point out. Oh, what language? Wondering what language, Babette? So I just saw a comment on browser. I should just point out that everything that I was doing today is in the new Chromium version of Edge. All these tools should work in any browser. All right, doesn't look like we have any outstanding questions. So thank you all for attending. We will let you go 15 minutes early, and I'll hang around until there's nobody left, just to see if anybody has any further questions. At this point, you can come off mute to ask questions as well. And nobody asked about this, but every session I've seen this week, somebody's asked about when things will be posted. So sometime tonight, the videos will be posted within the team. I believe the plan is to also have them on YouTube eventually for people who weren't able to attend, but they'll be in context for you all with the chat. No, the form will be sent to you at a later date. I do not know if we'll have a separate form for each of the sessions or whether it's one form for all of the sessions if you attended more than one.